them anything easy. We want to make their life as hard as possible while setting ourselves up for an easy match. That's the essence of counterpicking. Now, with that being said, tip number 1, identify weaknesses in a champion's kit. Now, some people aren't as familiar with other champions because they have, a select role that they play and they only play that champion, which is good. You should stay in one role and you should be a master of one in order to give yourself the best opportunity to win. But you do need to go out into the game and really experience some of these champions for yourself. Play a Chimera, because you may not understand what kind of flaws he has in his kit until you really experience it. Now, common weaknesses that champions in this game have are no escape, the inability to get out of a situation scot-free, or have a redo card, meaning, I'm caught out, teleport back, I'm good. Mana dependency, or high cost of mana, meaning they use an ability, and the more times they use that ability, eventually they get to 0 really fast. And if they don't have abilities, they can't do anything. They become relatively ability dependent. And if you have a champion like that, that can be a weakness. Low health pool, being susceptible to tower diving, not being able to hold or sustain a one-on-one battle. Weakness. Slow minion wave pushing. This is an objective weakness. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in a little bit, but not being able to push minions fast enough out of your tower. Not being able to defend against a wave of minions because you left your tower. Those types of things is a weakness that I'm going to explain why later. A bad tower defender. You might be able to defend your tower from minions, but whenever you have multiple champions and not being able to defend it from multiple champions because your health's too low, or you can't get the minions out of the wave, you can't hurt the champions fast enough because you're a support character or something like that, you're a bad tower defender. That's a weakness. Being melee, it has its positives and it has its negatives, but most of the time for a ranged champion, that's a weakness. For melee champions, it doesn't really matter to them, but being melee can be an advantage if you're up close and personal and it's harder for the ranged champion to aim. Abilities making the hero stationary. Morigesh, Gideon, when they ult, they're standing still. You can interrupt their ult. They're pretty much CCing themselves. Why is this a weakness? You can stun them. That's free damage on them. Whether it be a Murdoch just teeing off with auto attacks, or freaking a Decker hitting her stun off and the whole team jumping on him, it's a weakness. Not all abilities do damage. That's a weakness because you have some characters like Narbash where one of the moves is just running fast and the other one is healing. Granted, those are good moves, but they don't deal damage to me. So if they don't deal damage to me, why am I afraid of you? You kind of get what I'm saying? There's other champions that have that too. But when you have a lot of abilities that don't do damage, it's a weakness because they need somebody else with them. So if you see them alone, you can take advantage of it. High mana cost. I know I mentioned that before, but I can't tell you enough because I'm an anti-caster guy. I love playing casters, and it is the biggest weakness. So if you're having trouble with like Morigesh, Lieutenant Bellica, Countess, all these people like that, look at their mana bar. It shows you. They have no mana, wipe them out. Don't be afraid of them. Get them. Now, I'm going to talk about objectives and objective weaknesses. Now, this is an objective game. It's all about taking towers, taking inhibitors. It doesn't matter how many times you died. It doesn't matter how many times you've freaking got assists. It's not about the KDA. It's about winning the game. Now, when you win a game, a lot of times it's because you probably out-push the other opponents. You're able to keep that pressure on them. Now, counter-picking as a whole with a 5-man squad, if you pick more lane pushers, it's going to be easier for you to defend your territory. It's going to be easier for you to take territory as well when you're split pushing or you're grouping up because you don't got to worry about minions. You send one person to go right, one person to go left, they click R1, they come right back. Now the enemy team has to worry about lanes, they gotta worry about all this other stuff. So that's a counter pick in itself. Is picking enough lane pushers versus people that are weak at lane pushing. Now, how do we counter all these weaknesses? It's really easy. It's fast. If you don't have escape, CC, stuns, and roots. If you are mana dependent, pick a champion that depletes their mana, or someone who can out sustain them when they're using all their abilities. Someone who can attack them while they're weak. So whether you're putting on a health potion or a mana potion, or you're controlling the mid lane buffs, those type of things matter because it sets up the enemy team for failure. Picking a champion that goes against like relative abilities, meaning a Decker versus a Gideon with that stun. Picking a champion that can disrupt Chimera's health regen. Someone that can stop ults. All those things. People that directly interrupt people's abilities are a great counter pick. Now, I will mention Sparrow with attack speed stacks. If you could just outplay, you got some stick skills, use it to your counter pick. Pick a champion that's elusive. Pick a champion that is mobile, that's able to make people miss. That's just common sense. Now, tip number 2, identify strengths and pick characters that mitigate them. Now, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to counter pick this guy because he's weak at this. Okay, I got it. Find out what they're strong at and make sure that they can't use that strength. For instance, if Gideon has an escape, pick someone that has a gap close. Pick someone that, or get a card that allows you to have that gap close. Or get an on ability slow, something that allows you to keep them from continuing to get away from you. For health regen, for the champions like Rampage or Chimera or even Narbash, picking something that like a card that has regen reduction, thick blood, picking up the buffs that put a blight, that create that disruption in their ability to keep gaining health. Getting a mana potion or mana regen in order to be able to use your abilities in order to keep them in a constant state of I can't regen anything. For burst damage, for champions that have tremendous burst damage, right? Having a high enough health pool to survive it. Having health regen to where when all that damage that they're doing means nothing. Getting barriers, getting shields, picking a champion that has invulnerability. So a Morrigesh attacking a freaking Seraph. Click your invulnerability for the ult, it's cancelled, you're alive, it's another day. Easy. And stuns and slows. Pick someone that has an AoE damage, so you can disengage the people that are stunned. So a Howitzer, a Gadget, or whatnot. Force them to attack them in your damage. Okay, you stunned them, great, you did like 80 damage. You're going to come in here and you're going to take 650, 750 to the face, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because that AoE is there. It's protecting them for the duration of their stun. It's a counter pick. It's part of picking for your team comp. Which brings me to my tip number 3, and my final tip is team composition is key. It's everything. If you're just counter picking champions, but your champions don't mesh well, you're screwed. You're putting yourself in a worse position than the counter pick team. And something that you need to understand in order for team comps is understand the triangle. The triangle is caster, fighter, and freaking 80 carries. Now, what that means is casters are supposed to be able to burst 80 carries. They get high volumes of damage versus a low health pool. It's a win. You can 1v1 an 80 carry for 90% of the match if you build your guys correctly. So then where does that leave the other triangle? Okay, so 80 carries are supposed to be able to beat fighters/tanks. Because they do high volumes of damage relatively fast, and it's all over time. It's continued damage, which directly affects health, armor, all that crap. It blows it out the window. You just eat them up, throw them away, it's done. So when you have an 80 carry beats a fighter/tank, if done correctly, if it's used the way it's supposed to be used. and then the tank fighter is supposed to beat the caster. Because the caster doesn't have sustained damage, just burst damage, the fighter gets in close enough to do all its damage and can survive the burst, and then that's the counter. So now when you're picking your teams, if you're picking 3 casters and 2 AD carries, you're leaving yourself wide open, because if I pick champions that are directly can kill those guys, you're being countered. You're being counterpicked by just team composition. If I'm picking, I got Feng Mao, Grux, and a Rampage, right? Those guys can handle the casters. Easy. They can just jump on them all day, finish them. And then you guys got your 80 carries that fight them. Well, I got casters on my team too. I got one caster that can eliminate your 80 carry. And then I got an 80 carry that can eliminate both of those. Or at least do enough damage to where they can take them out. So you can pick your team comp based around what the other team's team comp is, using that triangle in order to counter just the setup of the types of characters. That's my third counter pick tip. Now, I'm going to give one example of what this means on a breakdown of a champion that's used in a lot of games, and then you guys can go out and use these tools and tips for everybody that you want to. Obviously, I'm going to be doing it on Chimera, because he has a lot of positive, he has a lot of flaws. So, but he's picked a lot in a lot of games, and people are afraid of him or can't counter him. So this is for you guys out there that are having trouble with Chimera. He has no escape. Yeah, he has a badass engage, but he has no escape. He's mana reliant as hell. If that dude's not stacking mana in his deck, he can only jump like 3 times and do, 1 square and an O, and then he's useless. So anybody, he's mana reliant, and he's ability reliant too. If he's using his abilities all the time, that's how he's going to kill you. He kills you 99% of the time with his abilities. His health regen is his sole way that he sustains. He sustains through health regen. You have to, that's horrible. That means you're not durable enough to fight anybody if you get rid of it. It's a weakness. Now, what's his strength? He's a 1v1 fighter. He's going to win most of the time. 99% of the time, fully stocked Chimera versus fully stocked anybody else, he's going to win. Burst damage, it's out of control. He has strong engage. His health regen is amazing. So he allows him to sustain. Objectively, his biggest flaw is he doesn't push minions well. Now, who would I pick against these guys? This guy. Aurora. Easy pick. CC for days. He'll have no escape. I'm going to put you in a situation you can't escape from. She also has burst damage. If you can't put your health regen into effect, your health is gone. If I can stop you from gaining your stacks, you're gone. She just negates everything about him. It's insane. And if she does wind up getting in a bad situation, she has escape. She has two escapes that are real easy to get away from him. Lieutenant Bellica, mana stealing, so it keeps him from using all of his abilities on all your friends on your team. She has burst damage as well, so when he is low mana after jungling, she can burst him down really easily. Decker and Narbash, they both have stuns to set him up for a 3-on-1 engage, which allows, puts him in a no escape situation. They have slows, they have barriers, they have things to make him not be able to get away, a lot of pursuit. And they have healing, which allows you to have more sustain to where you could outlast him. My other 2 picks are Countess and Faye. The reason why I picked these 2 is to negate his objective weakness. They push lanes really fast. He can't. All day, put one on one side, put one on the other side, push the lanes up. You have enough people that are like Chimera that can't push lanes on a team. Objectively, there's going to be so much pressure with minions, they can't do anything. Now, cards. Blink Charm to escape him from his hard engage. Thick Blood to reduce his health regen. Ash of the Witch to slow him down if you're a Greystone, and you're doing your freaking spinning swords. Got him, coach. He's slowed. He can't get away. He has no escape. He's done. I am going to do a special mention for other cards, such as Gift of the Rain is a health regen card. to help counter Morigesh, as well as Quelching Scales, smaller cards. Check them out, look what they do, and try to implement them to your deck. It's a great counter for her. 2 champions right off the bat. Lieutenant Bellica, mana, gets rid of her mana. She gets stronger as Morigesh uses more and more of her abilities. She's ranged, she has disruption, she can farm from a distance, and she can outpush Morigesh all day. She's like the ultimate Morigesh killer, if you want to call her that. The other one is Sereth. Sereth has the invulnerability to stop her from her ult. She's very bursty, gets on top of Morigesh. Morigesh can't get away with the slow and all that damage mid to late game. Sereth is very mobile versus a Morigesh, and with that invulnerability, man, it's an easy day. That's everything I got for you guys. I hope this little tips on counter picking helps you guys. If you have any questions, if you have champions that you're having trouble counter picking, or you're trying to figure out a team comp in order to counter pick another team comp because you got some custom matches going on, feel free to hit me up. I'm more than welcome to answer questions or give my opinion. This whole video is my opinion. Take it for what it is, but it works. It really does work. I've done tons and tons of research. It probably looks blank, but it's all notes, notes upon notes upon notes, looking at champions, and I'm trying to help you guys out. If you haven't already, smash on that like button, subscribe for more content. It really helps me out. You guys have a wonderful day. That's all I got for you. Peace.